another chapter in this amazing rivalry. I'm going to talk about that history with some fans who are already here.
Hell, look at this now.
I thought I smelled some aged cheese. Have a seat. Join us. You've got to be some kind of a masochist to come back here, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cut the Cheese, Poke the Bear. I am UrzaMaster. With me, as always, the Bears fan, Lord Uther. How you doing, sir?
Fantastic.
Heck yeah. We're both a little under the weather.
Yep.
It's probably apropos to the situation both our teams are in. So I'm going to turn the hat backwards here just to remind myself of better times.
That's right.
But not a great week for the Bears again, and a struggle of a week, and also not a great week for the Packers franchise. I don't believe we have to rehash for the fans out there who saw the games, but obviously both home teams took home an L last week. Obviously the Packers lost here on Thursday night against a very strong-looking Detroit Lions. And the Bears, are on that 3-game slide that they definitely didn't want to be in. But that's not the least of their worries, it seems like. So I turn it to you, Lord Uther. I think the Bears have a lot more to talk about, at least up front here, than maybe the Packers.
Yeah. Where do I begin? So I guess we could kind of start with, because we haven't been on for a little while due to a couple different factors here, but obviously we were talking about how the defensive coach wound up resigning. There's probably something way deeper going on with that than we know of. The Bears organization didn't even really put a letter out there supporting the coach when they let him go. So that was kind of interesting too. They must know a little bit more. So whatever happens with that. So now you have Eberflus trying to coach and then make all the defensive calls. And then that offense, it's struggling. But I think that week our left tackle went out. Defensive, the coach quit. Fields had a run-in with reporters where he said it was the coaching, and then came back about 2 hours later and said, "Oh no, it's me. The coaching's fine." And then the next day at practice, he was actually hugging the offensive coordinator, and it was a total photo op, right? So to try and cover that up. And then there's been a lot of talk down here. So I don't know if we want to start there, or I can even dive into the quarterback situation too, if you'd like.
Let's talk quarterback, because I think we predicted at the beginning of the season here that Justin Fields, they need to put up or shut up. They got to commit or get off the pot. Yeah,
well, it looks like they're going to get off the pot here. There's a lot of talk of our future quarterback played today, against Deion Sanders, who I was talking to you guys. I got an idea for that, but Caleb Wilson, who's the quarterback for USC, great game today. So there's talk here of him being the quarterback next year, and then the Bears having, I think, the 3rd pick where they would go after Marvin Harrison Jr. So that's some of the talk that's going on. But just to give you an idea of why it might not be a bad thing, I came across these stats. Justin Fields, over 27 games compared to Trubisky. Fields, 59.9% completion, 4,469 yards, 1,591 rushing yards, 36 TDs, 31 turnovers, 79.97 passer rating. Here's Mitch's numbers. 63.2% completion percentage, 5,644 passing yards, 680 rushing yards, 36 TDs, the same as Fields, 26 turnovers, 5 less than Fields, 86.83 passer rating.
Wow. Both serviceable quarterbacks, though. Honestly, because not everybody is an Aaron Rodgers or a Brett Favre or
right.
Not even a Rex Grossman.
Right.
But both could have easily been, as we say in football, franchise quarterbacks for mediocre teams, right? And those aren't awful numbers, either one. Trubisky being better than Fields, though, is really a really a
Yeah.
surprise.
That's why when I saw that, I immediately was like, it's unreal. And then we've got, Chase Claypool saying, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago,
It's not the right spot for him.
yeah. And so,
You don't want that in your locker room, you know.
no, no. But I think it points back to one thing. Well, I think it points back to two things, right? And this is something we'll kind of get into with your team. But obviously, the players don't respect the coaches anymore. Um, they're saying that we shouldn't be cutting it. You shouldn't have cut a head coach out middle of the season. My thing is the season's lost. Sorry, Bears fans, it's over. Season's lost. I really think we're playing for the first pick. So Eberflus is just a puppet in there right now. And I was saying to you and a good friend of ours, bring in prime time. And that might sound crazy, but the one thing that I think he'll demand, which I think this is something, if you're going to rebuild the whole thing, which to me, that's what they're going to wind up doing, then I think this is why primetime would work. Primetime's going to come in here. He's going to have expectations, or he's going to sit you, or he's going to yell at you, or he's going to kick you out of the locker room, whatever. That might be tougher maybe with a veteran team, but if you're starting this thing out from the ground up, you can, and those kids are coming right out of college, they'll be used to a college type atmosphere or coach like Deion Sanders would be, and have the accountability. And everyone and their brother wants to come coach with Deion Sanders now. He could probably have his pick
Oh yeah.
of offensive and defensive coaches. Warren Sapp is actually going to coach at Colorado next year because he's like, I want to be a part of that coaching staff. So
Yeah.
if the McCaskies won't sell, then they at least have to reboot this entire thing. I feel bad for Fields because I believe he'll go somewhere, and I do believe he'll be a good quarterback. Maybe even a little better than serviceable. I think he could go somewhere and start, which takes me to another point I wanted to make too. Can we all just admit that that people like Tom Brady, Mahomes, what these guys do is not easy, and when they get paid that kind of money, they deserve it. Same thing with head coaches.
Oh yeah.
They are a dime a dozen.
Yep.
So when you have a Belichick, you pay him. When you have a LaFleur, you pay him. Those are all very important things that I think we don't always realize because we are armchair quarterbacks, armchair GMs, like you and I were talking about earlier. But it's because we love our teams and we love the sport. So that's why we say what we say and we do what we do.
Well, and I think the lovely part of being a fan and being an armchair QB / coach is we kind of have an unbiased view in a way. Like we're very passionate about our own team and about our rivals. That we probably do have some insight that, believe it or not, is a little more valid than I think people want to give credit or credence to. And I agree. I think personally, I think Primetime would be a great pick for head coach in Chicago. One, he has an attitude that I think, I know he's not from Chicago, but it's Chicagoan. I mean, he would fit in real well in downtown Chicago, no problem. He's got a flair for the dramatic, which I think, to be honest, I think the NFC North needs. I think that's why you see the Lions being as successful right now as they have been, because Dan Campbell has a flair for the dramatic. Now, he's not as intentional about it, I don't think. He's just more of an honest dude and probably more of a blue-collar type guy. But it's that kind of attitude and that kind of ambiance in the locker room, that air of respect, that is, I mean, you can't coach that. You can't teach that. You can't learn that. That's natural talent. And I would love to see, I'd love to see Primetime coach in the NFL.
It's going to happen.
I go back to a lot of those players. Oh, it's going to happen. Somebody, Washington or Chicago or somebody's going to get him. And that's what he wants to do. Like, I don't think he wants to coach college ball. I think he's always wanted to be in the NFL, but he's earning his stripes because he knows hard work. He's a hard knocks guy. And I'll point at, like, the 85 Bears. And I know, Packer fan bringing up the 85 Bears, like, what? All those guys who became coaches from the 85 Bears, they deserve to be coaches because they knew what it was to respect your coaches. They knew how to demand respect, and they knew how to deliver and earn respect. And I think Eberflus and a lot of coaches in the NFL right now, that's their big struggle. They don't have the ethic that it takes to get to that level of greatness. And Dion is one of those people that could do it. I think Brett Favre could do it. I think Brett Favre doesn't want to do it.
Right, I agree with
That's
that.
the problem I have.
Right.
He could walk onto the field, and every Packer in that locker room, if he was offensive coordinator, they would eat out of his hand. I mean,
Yeah.
the only problem is the quarterback would probably hate him because Favre would be like, "Oh hell, I could throw that pass," and he'd go
That's
there
right.
and fucking do it. So
Right.
pardon the French, but he would. It's that coaching dynamic that being a leader is tough for a lot of reasons, but it's cultivating a layer of respect while balancing egos. And one thing that the Bears haven't really ever done, but they kind of have an opportunity now, if they do rebuild, is to clear out the culture a little bit in the locker room. And I think Chase Claypool, nothing against him, I think he's a good receiver. He's not one of the, he's probably not going to be a Hall of Famer at this point, unless he goes somewhere and becomes like Devontae Adams quality magically. But he's always going to be talked about as one of the good ones. But when you have that kind of attitude, like I don't think this is the right place, you're right. It's not. If you come out in public and say that, you're right. You should be elsewhere. And if not for your benefit, for the benefit of the team. Because saying that stuff in public, your teammates probably hear that. And if they haven't heard that from you directly in private beforehand, that's doubly hurting them. Justin Fields, I think, as much as I think he'd be a good quarterback, he does need to go because he does not believe in the coaches. And I think you got to get rid of both because he's now not going to trust anybody you bring in because he's not going to, it's going to get to the point at some point he's not going to trust general management. And you can't have a player doing that. Now, I'm not saying that people need to fall in line because that's not how I operate either, but there has to be a pretty good grain of salt with the culture of your locker room. And that's where I think the Packers historically have done pretty well. They don't have a lot of big egos. They're very much this is the team, we take accountability. The big ego we've ever had is Aaron Rodgers. We got rid of him, and we got rid of him a little too late. And I think I say that because I see what David Bakhtiari's doing. Now, the guy's hurt, and I've said this before, and I've had people rip me apart for it, but David Bakhtiari was a waste of money. When we re-signed him, we basically threw away $25 million because he's played, a handful of games since he got hurt. He's having yet another knee surgery. I feel bad for the guy. Like, I hope when he leaves the NFL, he can walk and he never has any long-term issues. But he needs to walk away from the game. People say he's great at what he does, and it's true. He's a Pro Bowler when he's healthy. But he has not been healthy for 3 years, and we've been paying him a stupid amount of money. And quite frankly, he's an Aaron Rodgers guy. I think he wanted to go to the Jets with Rodgers, but there wasn't a deal on the table because the Jets didn't want him because he's hurt. He's going to be hurt. Even if he was starting, he wasn't going to be effective. And really, honestly, this season, for what he did play, he was all right. He was probably better than who we have now, but frankly, if he's not going to be there, if he's not going to play, I'm sorry. It's time to part ways. And it was probably time before we extended him. But you get those toxic personalities out of the locker room, and I think if you take Bakhtiari out of the situation in Green Bay right now, and you put in a solid like a Lyle Collins who's available right now in his place, not only do you shore up that offensive line quite a bit, but now you've got full buy-in, and full buy-in wins that Saints game. They never gave up. They didn't pull Jordan Love and put in Sean Clifford. They stuck by their guy. And that earns respect from your players to your coaches. And by winning that game, That's the players earning the mutual respect from their coaches and their general management. That Saints game had so much heart. For 3 quarters, I was like, oof. I'm like, well, it's hard to win a home opener for, 13 or 18 games running. That's a long time to be winning your home opener against the best road team in football for the last, 20 years. I'm like, it's perfectly acceptable to lose to the Saints at home in your opener. And it's, again, we just lost to the Falcons in a hard game. I was okay with that loss. We played pretty well, made some poor decisions here and there, but it's like we're learning. It's a brand new team as far as I'm concerned. And they play with so much heart. And I mean, I think as a football fan, when you watch a comeback like that, it inspires you. And it really carried through to that Lions game. And then I just was sorely disappointed after that opening pick. I was like, oh, we got this. We're in the bag. And then, whoop. But, the score doesn't tell the story. Like, anybody who didn't watch that game probably thinks, well, that wasn't horrible. That wasn't a horrible loss. It was a pretty bad loss. I think Jordan Love made a lot of poor throwing decisions. I think the play calling wasn't great. The offensive line, obviously, like the Minnesota Vikings, like the Bears, that's the problem. You don't have enough time in the pocket. You're not going to be able to make those miracle throws down the field. And that went for Aaron Rodgers, went for Brett Favre. I've seen both of those quarterbacks do it. Hell, I've got some of those games on DVD. If you have a Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers who've been playing for 10, 15 years at that point, they might be able to pull that game out of a hat. Maybe. But Jordan Love, in his first season as a starter, he made some really amazing throws. But he's not ready to win games without time. He needs the support. He needs his running game. They didn't hardly even work to establish the run. I know Aaron Jones was still a little hurt. He was a little tenuous. I don't know what's up with A.J. Dillon. He's having a hard time carrying the full load. And then our round of backups we got, they did a serviceable job, but not enough to win games. And, I mean, it's like drinking bleach, but I think us other NFC North people have to finally admit, I think the Detroit Lions might be the team to beat this year. They didn't look great either, though. They looked just a little bit better, in my opinion. I don't think it was the trouncing that people probably think it was, because I think the offensive line was just that bad, frankly. And that's why I think our win over the Bears in Week 1, I mean, it looked great, and I love beating the Bears, but the Bears are just not that good. We're not that great. No. The Bears are just not that good.
And I think let me give you a good example of, first of all, the Bears not understanding talent, and second of all, coaching, in my opinion. David Montgomery, who was with the Bears for multiple years, leaves, goes to Detroit, and then this past week against you guys, he had 117 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Amazing.
But he was doing, and he's had, I think he was injured here or there a little bit, but he's had a really good year so far. So to me, that's not understanding players, and it's obviously the system, right? He goes into a system, and it's the coaching, and he's got the coaching, and he goes and he rips those off and does a great job. But here, let me
buy-in.
Yeah,
all the players are on board.
I agree. So our offensive coordinator said this week, we are building something in the right direction. Now, if that direction is below my feet and continues towards the center of the earth, then yes, he is building it in the right direction. If it is,
right.
Now, if I was the offensive coordinator of the Packers, or if I was the coach of the Packers and looking back at this past week, and I even sent a message to you, and I said something like, I think a third of your starters are out, or something ridiculous like that. It's like you had a lot of players out.
6 Pro Bowlers, basically.
Okay, so yes, you've lost a couple of games, but you're going in the right direction. We're going to play the Broncos this week, and we're probably going to lose. And I think if we lose this week, you're going to, they might sit Fields and tell him he needs a little break and bring in this Bagneck guy who is a Division III quarterback. And I think they might let him have at it at some point. because and why not? Eberflus is gone. Regardless, he is not going to be back here next year. So if you're the Bears,
No,
start,
I think it's a foregone.
yeah, start tanking it to make sure that you get that number one pick, and you can let Fields go, and you can bring in another wide receiver because I'm sure they're going to let Chase Claypool go at some point here at the end of the season. I have to look and see how much guaranteed money he has, but he's not going to want to be with the new regime. Keep DJ Moore around and just start this all over again. And you know what? Again, let's look at some of our former head coaches that, besides maybe Nagy, this Eberflus will never be a head coach again in the NFL. I truly believe that. I don't think he'll be a head coach ever again.
Yeah.
And it's just par for the course for what we've done here. And I've been one more thing. I know I'm rambling here a little bit, but we've talked about this before. I want to make this point just again. When they build that new stadium, if this thing isn't going in the right direction, people are not going to drop for PSLs and the ridiculous amount that those seats are going to cost. They're just not going to do it. And then you're going to run into a situation like you had with the Chicago Cubs a few years ago, where for the first time, and I don't know how long, seats were empty in Wrigley Field, no one was going, and they're like, we better do something about this. Because our loyal fans who we've bled the blue bears out of them, are
Right.
they're probably not going to show up anymore. Like, they really are done with it. I mean, one of my good buddies is like, I'm not paying again. I'm not doing this. He's like, something drastically better change. And I think Bears fans have reached the end of their rope.
I hate to say it because I have a lot of respect for the Bears franchise. I do. I've enjoyed beating the hell out of them for the last 3 years. But, it's something to be said about a Bears football team not being the Bears. I mean, that's really the saddest part about it is, like, I've always felt that the NFL is way more entertaining when the NFC North is the NFC division to beat. Well, that in the West. I mean, obviously with the 49ers, like when they're good and the Packers and the Bears are good, those three teams and Dallas and Philadelphia make for really exciting football games. Those, now say what you will about Philly fans, but those five teams, when they're really good and they're playing great football, and to some extent the Saints, the Saints, I think you get a lot more enjoyment out of watching all the NFL games when you have, I don't want to say parity like that, but like a number of really good teams. It's harder to watch a number of really bad teams, especially historically bad teams. Like, I mean, it's nice to see Miami doing well, and the Jets doing well for a game. But like Miami, Buffalo, they're, historically speaking, they're kind of up and down teams. They're not great, but they're not bad. So it's kind of nice to see a little bit of rebalancing. But the AFC's kind of always been sort of a roller coaster. There's not really one dynasty team. Maybe the Chiefs, and certainly, of course, the Tom Brady Patriots. But the NFC really has always been like a core group of 6 to 8 teams that were just monsters. The monsters of the Midway. The Bears. I mean, even when the Packers sucked for 30 years, they were still sort of considered like one of the greats. I mean, they kept up enough wins to now have more wins than Chicago all time, which is wild to think because we were nobody, for a long time. I mean, before Don Majkowski, I mean, who can name a prior quarterback other than Bart Starr? Not a lot of people. I mean, how many people remember the name Lynn Dickey? They should, because for a long time, I think they may still have the record for the highest scoring Monday night game against the Bengals. But it's one of those things that, like, it's just bad for football when owners don't take winning games seriously. And I can't remember what team did it a while back. I think it was the Browns, where, like, I think it came out that they were intentionally losing games. Like they were
Right.
intentionally going to lose like the last 3 games of the year, and everyone's like, "Man, f that!" Like, at least play to win. You know, I mean, there's one thing if it's like the last game of the season and you're the Jaguars, let it go. You know, get that number 1 pick. But then they end up winning, and then like, okay, now they get the number 2 pick. It's like,
That's what
really,
happened with
like,
Lovie Smith in Texas. That's why he lost his job.
yeah.
He lost his job because he didn't tank the game and he went for the win, and then they cut him loose because they lost the number 1 pick. I mean, come
Which, say what you will about Lovey Smith, but he was a decent coach. You know,
on. Yeah.
I mean, is he a dynastic coach? No, but he was a good Bears coach. I wasn't like him and Denny Green were really fun to watch.
Yeah.
You know, those two coaches were. I mean, they. I don't know. And that's the other thing I feel is a little disappointing about the league is you don't get kind of those wild coach personalities anymore, like you would expect out of a Chicago or a Minnesota or a, you know, not necessarily Green Bay, but some of those like Dallas. Dallas is a great one. Mike McCarthy, really. Now, granted,
can't
he's
believe
done
they
some good
kept
things
him
in
there.
Dallas.
I can't believe
I can't believe it either, and I don't think they're going to for very much longer. Like I think this year could be his last year unless they make the playoffs. Otherwise, I don't think Jerry Jones is going to put up with it much longer. Not, and I give Mike McCarthy a lot of shit. I can because I was there when we lost to the Cardinals in winter at Lambeau, his last game. I sat there for 4.5 hours in the rain snow mix on like a 25-degree day, and the beer couldn't warm you up. That game was so abhorrently bad. Yeah, Mike McCarthy deserved to go. And for years, he would play to lose the game. He played too conservatively in the third quarter. Every third quarter sucked for like 5 years. He wasted Aaron Rodgers' career. Yeah, say what you will. Like, now, did we win a Super Bowl? Yeah, we won a Super Bowl. We almost went back to a couple, but I look at all those championship games we lost. All we had to do was score one time in the third quarter, and we seal the deal, and we go to the Super Bowl. That's
Yep.
it. If you change that one thing, we win every single one of those except for maybe one. But yeah, I do think like if Chicago could pull in a prime time and get that big personality, I mean, is there anything more quintessentially Chicago? I look at the Vikings right now, who are mediocre, if not worse than mediocre. They've lost some games by close margins, but they're the Vikings. They tend to choke, especially with Kirk Cousins, who is an infamous choker. But I really think the dynamic that's missing there, aside from a good quarterback and a good offensive line, is the coaching staff. I know they're enamored with this guy they got coaching for him, but he's just so. He reminds me of like in Grand Theft Auto, those people who are driving the cars you steal, who are just sort of generic looking. He's one of those. Like, and I gotta say, like, I don't expect great things from that team because there's really nothing great about them. They cut Dalvin Cook. They cut the best running back in football, like,
Right.
for nothing. They got basically nothing for him, and I like the other running backs they got on their team, but I would never have gotten rid of Dalvin Cook for those guys. I'd have felt bad, but I'd have much sooner got rid of number 2 and number 3 and kept Dalvin Cook, and then bring in a crappy number 2.
Right.
Honestly, you'd have done better, but you'd have wasted his career because you don't have an offensive line, and he'd have gotten hurt, and then his career might have been over.
And we keep bringing up prime time to coach here, and I also think there's something to be said. Look, the reason why we love Ditka so much was, again, and it's this typical like Ditka trope. Oh, Ditka is a hard worker, and he's so Chicago. Like, I get all that, right? I do, but again, not only was he someone that would chew you out and yell at you and praise you, he would do all those things, but he had the all-pro status as a player to back it up. And I think that says something, because when that player looks at you, like the players look, when a pro player would look at you and say, "Well, you've never done this, but right? You've never done. You don't know. You've never been on the field." A guy like Ditka or Primetime, or they can, when they're up there talking, they can say, "I know because I've been there. Not just at this level. I've been here at this level. I've won Super Bowls. I've been an All-Pro. I mean, for multiple teams. Like, I mean, that carries weight with it. You can say the things that you say because you can back it up because you've done it, and that's
Exactly.
very important because the one thing that players don't like are reporters, and the one trope that they use against reporters all the time is, "You've never played, you don't know what it's like." Right? You're a wannabe. That's why you're a sports reporter. You're not sitting here playing for the Bears, or right? And so, I think when you bring in that coach who's been there, done that, makes a huge difference. Huge, and
Oh, it
that's
carries a ton of weight.
yeah, and that's Chicago as well. I'm gonna chew you out when you don't do the right thing. I'm gonna sit you. That's very Chicago. I think it's very important. So go buy the contract out and get this
I
guy
agree.
in here.
And I hate to say it because I love beating the Bears. Like I kind of want them to be crappy so I can just beat them every
Right.
time. But it's healthier for football when there's competition. Like if we split the series with our rivals every year, that's good football.
Right.
That makes it way more competitive. I don't like it when one team runs away with the division or with the division, or the conference. When all the teams suck, but like the 49ers are 15-1 at the end of the
Right.
year. Like,
Yeah.
I
Right.
don't like that either. Like that, in a way, like it's exciting to watch your team win all the time. I'm not going to deny that, but I do think it's fun to watch a scrappy team. Like when the Seahawks went to the playoffs at 7-9, I really enjoyed watching them play. It's like you have to have in some ways some respect for a team that goes in with a losing season, and I think they won their wild card game
They
too
did.
that year,
They did.
and like that's hard, And as much as I love watching a team play that just wins, it's so much fun to watch a team. Like this is why I watch all the games. Like as much as I'm a Packer fan, I will watch Baltimore play.
Sure.
Or I'll watch. Oh, like the Jets are my second favorite team, and they've had many crappy years, but damn, do they play with a lot of heart. And I think of you coach kids, and I've watched youth teams go out and play various sports, and it's like when you're losing, but you're still showing up and giving all. It still could feel like a win. You work your hardest at something and you still come close to achievement, even if you miss the mark, or sometimes you hit that mark and you're like, you know what, we ended up coming back and winning. We pulled it out somehow, like the Packers did against the Saints. It's like those games can mean a hell of a lot more than a 5-game win streak, where you've outscored your opponent by 2 to 3 scores every game. Like at some point when you're winning that much and scoring that many points, you kind of have to wonder, like, are we as good as we think we are, or are we going to get a gut check? And I've seen a lot of Packers teams get a gut check, and it always happens after the bye week, and it drives me absolutely insane.
Right.
Where we went on a tear one year. It was a couple years back with Rodgers, where we were like 8-0 going into the bye week, and it's like we could have an undefeated season, and we came back and we were like heavy favorites at home against like a really bad. I want to say it was like a really bad Raiders team or a really bad Jaguars team or something, and they beat the pants off of us. I mean, it wasn't even close. I think we lost like 38-14 or 38-10 or something, and and I've seen some bad losses against bad teams before, and I remember a Brett Favre press conference after a game saying, you know what, people don't give the Chicago Bears the credit they deserve. They're a much better team than people think they are, and I've never forgotten that. And I feel like sometimes the players and the pros tend to forget, don't believe the hype. Like, you might be the best team in football right now, but that doesn't mean that the Detroit Lions can't come and dethrone you. That doesn't mean that you're not going to drop one against a crappy team that you should easily beat. We
Right.
were favorites against the Lions this week, and we lost at Lambeau. There were so many Lions fans there, you could hear "Let's go Lions."
Yep.
That's probably the first time in Lambeau Field history that's ever happened. I wonder sometimes, because we talk about parity in the NFL, and that's always been a big talk. Is how do we ensure there's more parity so there's no dynasty teams? Well, let Tom Brady retire, kind of
Right.
thing.
Right.
That's pretty much it. But even your dynasty teams have off years. Patrick Mahomes isn't having the greatest year so far. They're going to be fine. They're going to make the playoffs. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that when we play them on December 3rd, it's going to be a hell of a game. But, I don't disagree that the Packers are headed in the right direction. Like, I feel like we're making things happen. We're scrappy. And, yeah, 53% of our salary cap was not on the field.
Wow.
It's like 6 Pro Bowl players not on
Yeah.
the field.
Yeah.
But, that is a very hard thing for a team to overcome. But for them to rally around who is, and I'm going to keep saying it, essentially a rookie quarterback,
Yeah.
and display the amount of heart they displayed, that is a team I can believe in as a fan. And that's where I've always had respect for Lions and Bears fans, frankly, because they'll stand by their team through thick and thin. Now, I do think there are circumstances, like the Bears are going through right now, where you have to send a message to your ownership by not showing up. Don't go to games. Don't buy tickets.
Yeah.
Don't renew your season passes. It's just something that, like, when is enough enough? When has your fan base gotten so exhausted? And I hate to hear it from the Bears because again, two of the most storied franchises, Packers and Bears. Two of the most winningest franchises. The most championships. The most brats and beers consumed after the game, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
we collectively should be more proud of ourselves than any other team in the National Football League. And yeah, that is a dig at Cowboys fans. Not that the Cowboys don't have a lot to point to. I'm not saying that. But Steelers, 49ers, Cowboys, Bears, Packers, those are your 5 teams. Patriots, okay. Okay, it's Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. When they're gone, they're going to be nobodies again. They were nobodies
Yep.
forever. They had,
Yep.
one Super Bowl before that?
Yep.
So, I'm on a soapbox now. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Typical Packer fan, right?
Before we make our predictions this week for our teams, just something else to kind of throw out there. The year that Andy Reid was hired by the Chiefs, they hired him in one day. That same year, our coaching hire took 16 days. A lot of trying to figure that out, and we landed Mark Trestman. So that just goes to yeah.
I don't mean to laugh.
Then when we went to draft, we moved up to take Trubisky, so we passed on Mahomes, right? Then, I'm going somewhere with this because I'm going to make a plea to the McCaskies. Then, we've been last to the party. Everyone else is always first. So here's my plea, McCaskies. After you click the subscribe button down below and you continue to listen to us, be the first to the party and go get prime time. Because if you don't, Jerry Jones is going to do it. And I'm pretty sure I could see him stepping up, getting rid of McCarthy at the end of the season and bringing prime time in. So let's not be last. Eric Bieniemy's out there too. We could have went after him. What are we waiting for? He's going to probably take over for the Commanders if you don't get out there and make some kind of offer. And the Commanders are on a little bit of an upswing as well. So if you don't do something now, you might just set us back another 10 years. Because even if a Caleb Wilson comes here and a Harrison Jr. come here, they're going to get so sick of losing they're going to leave, or they're not going to produce. It's going to be this constant cycle. So either sell the team or make the right move. maybe you should just hire me as the GM, and I could fix all of your problems.
There you go. There you go. Cut the cheese, poke the bear fan. Lord Uther is the new head coach of the Chicago
Yep.
Bears, and
I'll do it.
well, let's see what this kid'll do. That's funny. I could see Jerry Jones parting ways with Mike McCarthy mid-season if Primetime called and said, "Hey, Jerry, I got a
Prime?
slice of Pizza Hut. Let's
Right.
do this."
Prime won't leave his players. I believe that.
That's true.
I'm going to go out on a limb. Maybe I think there's a very, very small chance I would be wrong. But I do think now he has jumped schools. I'll give you that. But he's at least finished out his seasons, bowl games, whatever. So he might say he's going to go to Dallas, but he'll stay where he'll finish at Colorado. I mean, they had a very impressive comeback today. I mean, they were down 20 plus, I think, at the half, and they lose by 8. That's a nice little comeback.
That's pretty good.
And if you don't think, I mean, here's the thing. If Primetime comes to Chicago, he'll own Chicago. We'll love him. But let me tell you something. He goes to Dallas, where he was loved before. He's going to be loved again. And he will have that city in the palm of his hands, and he'll never leave there. Why would he? So, got to get to the party first.
If I was Primetime, I'd be waiting for Jerry Jones to call.
He's going to pay him.
That's pretty much going to happen.
Right. He's going to pay him, and he's going to make him, and he's going to have the town. So the Bears need to open up their pocketbook, get out there, make an offer he can't refuse, because he'll change your organization. He really will. I really believe that.
Oh, and at this point, they need a change.
And if it doesn't work,
I hate to say it because
neither of the past 30 years worked. So give it a try.
exactly, you really can't lose for losing. So, yeah, no, I like that. I like that a lot. My message to the Packers: go get Lyle Collins. Go get another lineman. There are a few of them out there right now, very serviceable. Lyle Collins is kind of my first choice, but I know we don't have a ton of money in the cap. But I feel like you could make some roster moves if you had to. That being said, we've got a couple of good games coming up this week for the Bears. Who are you taking in the Bears game?
I'm gonna
That's
take.
a fair question.
I'm gonna take the Broncos by a field goal, and it pains me to say that. I will tell you, if they lose, I'm telling you, if the Bears lose this week, that entire team is just going to dial it in. It's going to be over with. So I think you're going to get max effort. I think you're going to get max coaching. But I think you've been getting max coaching for 3 games now. The Bears haven't won since, I think, October of 2022 or something like that.
22nd, 2022, I think, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so you're going on almost a year of not winning one game. Just one game. So if we don't pull it out this week, I think it's over with. But I think with a lot of players, it already is over. I think Justin Fields knows he's gone. Whether he stays, whether we pick up his option or not, he's going to leave after that. He ain't staying. DJ Moore, if he gets a chance, he's going to be gone. Chase Claypool, it's all going to be gone. So, and I thought I was just going to give a score, but I know I'm going down another path. When in your mind you've already mentally, you've lost, that's 80% of the game. Like the great Larry Bird said, 80% of any game is mental. So it's already in the back of their heads that they're going to lose, that they're lost. And a great reflection of that is every time Justin Fields drops back for a pass, he has been conditioned to be hit. These players are conditioned to lose. And because you're not seeing any type of skill set or talent, and there have been no adjustments by the coaching staff, you start to, there's no way out. There's no path to victory. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope we win by a field goal, but I think we're going to lose by a field goal. And I think that's it. and I'll continue to do cut the cheese, poke the bear, but the season's over. So,
feel like-
I'm sorry. I'm going to go.
So what do you think the final
I'm
score
going to go 17-14. 17-14.
Broncos.
Broncos.
Well, if I had to call the Broncos-Bears game, I actually think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring than that. I think you're going to see some truly awful play from Frodo Baggins of the Broncos, trying to throw a football and only being 5'3",
Right.
which I have always felt is possible. Without Marshawn Lynch, that guy doesn't have a career, in my opinion. I think you're going to see a couple of picks on both sides. It's going to be exciting defense. I think both offenses are going to do nothing with the turnovers, or very, very little. And I still think it's going to be like a 21-28 game, or 21-25 game. And I do think the Bears get the win here.
All right.
I think the Broncos are somehow the worst team of the two.
Wow.
But I know I'm a Packer fan. I shouldn't be calling for a Bears win, but I think they're going to eke it out. And the good news for Packer fans is I think they're going to continue to lose after that, because they're not going to fire the coach because, hey, he just won the game. It's early in the season. Sorry. Actually, the season's about a quarter over, give or take a game. So I think you better think twice. So that's my take on that game. As far as the Packers go, we got the Raiders on Monday night, 7:15. That's going to be a great game. I think the Packers are going to have a lot of time to rest up, heal up. We're very fortunate. We get a long distance in between these two games to really do a little soul searching. You know, what went right in the Saints game, what went wrong in the Lions game. I think you got to get a little more loose. You got to let Jordan Love sling the ball around. He is not an Aaron Rodgers. He is not the guy that should be throwing the ball with precision, because he is not very good at it. I saw too many throws where he's trying to fit it into a tight window, and it either goes to the defender or it nearly goes to the defender. When he's throwing it all over the field and kind of like, F it, we're already losing, he tends to make the throw. I mean, he honestly makes better decisions when he's playing from behind, which is honestly harder to do, I think, as a quarterback. So I think you got to let Jordan Love loose a little bit. But the other thing that I saw that went really right in the Saints game and really wrong in the Lions game is you need your running game back.
Yeah.
You need more out of A.J. Dillon, and Aaron Jones should be good and healthy. So I'd expect a lot of ground ball against a Raiders defense that's better than it looks, but a Raiders offense that's way worse than it looks.
Right.
And I think our defense is hungry for some picks. I think we're going to have a really good defensive game. I don't know if Jair Alexander is going to be back for the game. I hope so. But I think Corey Valentine's going to have a really good game. I think he's coming into his own. I think he's undervalued as a player, personally. So I'm glad we're kind of sticking with him on a lot of our package plays. I think this is going to be a good game for us. I think it's going to be like a 35-10, 35-17. I think it's going to be a big win. We're going to go into the bye week on a high, and then we come back against the Broncos, who are going to do nothing in between.
Yeah.
So my caution would be, don't get too high on your own farts after this win over the Raiders, because we tend to lose immediately after our bye week, historically speaking. And I would hate to lose to the Broncos this year. Broncos in Super Bowl 32, I cried, but I can stomach that loss. That was a great team. Broncos this year, they are quarterbacked by the Hobbit that really didn't throw the ring in the fire. It had to be bit off his finger, if you remember right.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction. How do you feel about that matchup?
I was going to go 30-17, so we're right in the same realm there. I just think with the injuries you have, I mean, again, we're close, but then you got the Broncos after that. You are on the path we're supposed to be on. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
Well, I think I think it may have been our last episode where I predicted that it could possibly be an undefeated Packers season. Don't make predictions that early in the season, is what I'm saying. But I do think that you're right. We have a fortunate schedule still. Broncos, Vikings, Rams, Steelers.
Oh wow.
The Chargers game's going to be tough, and then we got the Lions again on Thanksgiving.
That's going to be an important game.
That's the Lions Super Bowl.
That's the conference right there. I mean, that's the division.
That's the conference, or the division, and could actually very well be the conference, depending on how the rest of the conference plays.
Great game on Thanksgiving Day, too. What a great game on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be – I don't think you could write it better than that. I know the NFL's not really predetermined, and I hate it when people say that, but there is a reason why they set the schedule the way they do. One, the Ford family pays for the Lions to play on Thanksgiving. Same with the Cowboys. Jerry Jones has bought Thanksgiving from the Pilgrims. But I will not deny that is some of the most exciting football you'll ever see. Thanksgiving and Christmas Day, and we play the Panthers on Christmas Eve, which could be a very nice win for us, a good Christmas present. And then the Vikings again on New Year's Eve, which could be a very nice New Year's gift for us. And then the Bears match up again, January 6th or 7th, which I think is funny to see on my little schedule here. January 6th or 7th. Could be both. Why not?
Yeah,
why not play 2 games to end the season? It's the Packers and Bears. We are Cut the Cheese, Poke the Bear. I think tonight we have definitely done a good job of poking at some bears.
Oh, cutting some cheese.
I didn't prepare Lord Uther for that. Poking some bears. I'm cutting some cheese. Next time we'll get a Giordano's pizza before the game, and we'll be better prepared. So, Packer fans, hang in there. Just remember, Aaron Rodgers' first season wasn't so great, and then a couple years later, we did this, and we did a lot of these.
Yeah, Bears fans, it's over.
We've been blessed.
Sorry.
No, is that not the Packers-Bears dichotomy at its best? I mean, our fans here at Pending Rebrand are really getting the finest representation of Packers and Bears. We can do this, you guys. It's over. You might as well call it. Let's go back to the job site.
Yep.
Boy, howdy. That's some good stuff right there. Well, take care, NFL fans. We will see you next week with another edition of Cut the Cheese and Poke the Bear.